When you hear the words Red Bull Racing, your mind instantly goes to one place: absolute crushing dominance in Formula One. You think of cutting edge aerodynamics, multi-million dollar steering wheels, and global trophies. But back in the mid 2000s, the billionaire executives looked across the Atlantic at America's biggest motorsports empire and asked a wild question: what if we conquered NASCAR? What followed was a chaotic 5-year roller coaster ride filled with massive investments, spectacular failures, cultural clashes, a driver revolving door, and 2 bittersweet trips to victory lane. This is a bizarre, forgotten story of when Red Bull tried to trade Monaco for Martinsville, and why the global powerhouse ultimately packed its bags and walked away. To understand this story, we have to go back to 2006. NASCAR was at an absolute peak of its culture and financial boom. Television ratings were massive, stands were packed, and Fortune 500 companies were throwing blank checks at teams. Red Bull, already finding major success with its marketing strategy in extreme sports and European racing, wanted in. They didn't just want to sponsor a car, they wanted to build an empire from scratch. They bought a massive facility in Mooresville, North Carolina, the heart of NASCAR country, and officially formed Team Red Bull. But from day one, they did things differently. Instead of partnering with an established team, they tried to build their own chassis and engines. For their debut in 2006, they hired legendary champion Bill Elliott to drive the number 83 Dodge. The result? He failed to qualify for the race. It was an ominous sign of things to come. In 2007, Red Bull made an even bolder gamble. They became one of the flagship teams for a brand new manufacturer entering the Cup Series, Toyota. They hired young, hotshot Brian Vickers to pilot the number 83 Camry, and they paired him with an energetic rookie, AJ Allmendinger, in the 84. The hype was astronomical. The reality was a brutal wake-up call. Because Red Bull was a brand new team with no owner's points, they had to go home if they weren't fast enough in Friday's qualifying efforts. In 2007, Toyota engines were underpowered and unreliable. Week after week, the beautifully painted Red Bull cars sat on the sidelines. Out of the first 12 races in 2007, Vickers failed to qualify for 5 of them. Allmendinger had it even worse. He missed the field in 11 of the first 14 races. The European corporate structure, which was used to calling the shots in F1, quickly realized that American stock car racing was a completely different beast. You couldn't just outspin the competition. You needed a good old-fashioned stock car experience. By 2008, the team started to find its footing. They swapped out AJ Allmendinger for a rotating cast of characters and focused all their energy on Brian Vickers. The hard work had paid off. Vickers managed to nab a handful of top 5s and poles, proving that the team's massive engineering budget was finally unlocking speed in the heavy Gen 5 car of tomorrow. But 2009 was the year that Team Red Bull truly arrived. Vickers was on a tear, constantly running up front. The defining moment of the entire program, though, came August 16, 2009 at Michigan International Speedway. With under 50 laps to go, the race turned into a brutal fuel mileage gamble. Heavy hitters like Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr. were trying to stretch their gas tanks to the absolute limit. Crew chief Ryan Pemberton leaned over the radio and told Vickers to save every drop of fuel possible. With 2 laps to go, race leader Jimmy Johnson's car sputtered and ran out of gas. The crowd erupted as the silver and blue number 83 Red Bull Toyota inherited the lead. Vickers swept through turns 3 and 4, holding off a charging Jeff Gordon, and crossed the finish line as the gas tank ran dry, but he crossed that finish line first. It was a monumental breakthrough. Red Bull had conquered a NASCAR Cup Series race on pure speed and strategy. The team actually qualified for the chase for the Sprint Cup that year. They finished 12th in the standings. It looked like the global powerhouse had finally cracked the NASCAR code. Unfortunately, momentum in NASCAR is incredibly fragile. Just as the team reached its highest peak, disaster struck. In early 2010, Brian Vickers began suffering from mysterious chest pains. Doctors discovered blood clots in his legs and lungs, forcing him to sit out the remainder of the season to recover. Suddenly, Red Bull's flagship car was leaderless. They cycled through substitute drivers like Casey Mears, Reed Sorensen, and Boris Said, but the chemistry was gone. Meanwhile, in their second car, now renumbered the number 82, Red Bull was trying to force a marketing dream into reality. They placed former F1 driver and American open wheel star Scott Speed into the seat. Speed had the perfect extreme sports attitude for the brand, but his transition to heavy stock cars was plagued by inconsistencies, short track tempers, and frequent crashes. Behind the scenes, cracks were widening. The top executives in Austria were looking at the balance sheets. They were spending tens of millions of dollars a year, but the ROIs just weren't adding up. In Formula One, they were winning world titles with Sebastian Vettel. In NASCAR, they were fighting just to stay in the top 20. Furthermore, Red Bull's primary target demographic was young adults, 18 to 34. NASCAR's fan base at the time was trending significantly older. The cultural mismatch was becoming impossible to ignore. In a desperate bid to save the program, Red Bull made a massive splash for the 2011 season. They signed superstar Kasey Kahne on a one-year temporary loan while he waited for a seat to open up at Hendrick Motorsports. Kahne brought immense talent, a massive fan base, and immediate credibility. Kahne's arrival gave the team instant speed. The cars were fast, but the corporate clock had already run out of time. On June 20th, 2011, Red Bull dropped a bombshell on the garage. They were completely pulling out of NASCAR at the end of the year. With their jobs on the line, the clock ticking down, the mechanics, engineers, and drivers refused to quit quietly. They raced the fall of 2011 with an underdog, chips on their shoulders mentality. That Team Red Bull would load their cars into their haulers for the final time. The assets, shop, owner points were all sold off to a new startup called BK Racing. And just like that, Red Bull's stock car experiment was over. In 5 years, Team Red Bull started 416 races, captured 2 historic wins, took 10 pole positions, and secured 28 top 5 finishes. They didn't revolutionize the sport, and they didn't win a championship. Many modern fans look back on it as a failed experiment. But in reality, Red Bull's time in NASCAR proved just how brutally difficult stock car racing truly is. Even with infinite money, world-class engineering, and a global market power, success in NASCAR has to be earned one grueling lap at a time. They came, they struggled, they won a couple trophies, and they left a lasting mark on an era of racing that will never be seen again. I have to admit that I absolutely loved the look of the Red Bull cars. Sweet looking font on the number, the red wheels. To me, it will always be an era that is unmatched. Yes, it was the car of tomorrow, but they were by far one of the most recognizable teams in NASCAR at the time. But anyways, I appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this deep dive into motorsports history, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments below, who is your favorite driver to ever pilot a Red Bull stock car? Did you even know Red Bull existed? Or just leave a thumbs up, it helps the algorithm. I've got a lot more of these videos coming, so I will see you in the next one. Thanks.